Welcome to Agency Bytes, a podcast for agency owners, hosted by agency veteran and coach Steve Guberman. Agency Bytes is a podcast focused on delivering actionable agency information from agency experts in about 25 minutes. Why 25 minutes? Because who has the attention span for much more these days? And you can squeeze in a listen between meetings with time for a bathroom break or coffee refill before your next meeting.
Welcome to Agency Bytes, a podcast dedicated to helping agency owners thrive. I'm Steve Guberman from Agency Outsight, where I coach creative entrepreneurs to build the business of their dreams. Today, I'm joined by Iggy Odighizuwa, CEO and founder of AIsetters.com and the Leads Management System, a done-for-you service that uses AI to book vetted and qualified appointments for service-based businesses like agencies. Iggy built his first seven-figure high-ticket online coaching business called Trill 80 Coaching. And since then, he's helped to build numerous other seven-figure online coaching businesses and helped build two eight-figure online coaching businesses and over 100 six-figure online coaching businesses. Iggy's spent 8 years of his life in Benin, a small village in an African country of Nigeria. Iggy, it's awesome to meet you. Great to have you here. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. I hope I didn't butcher any of that too badly, but certainly.
No, I would say you nailed. I mean, you nailed my last name.
All right.
And everything else was good. So no complaint.
So, man, what a storied history you've got in the entrepreneur space, working with coaches, working with startups, tech featured, sales featured. Like, talk about what your backstory is, what got you here.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it's kind of like loaded. So I don't want to. How far back do I need to go? I started in health and fitness.
Okay.
All right. And so built my first in-person training business and grew that to a point where I was doing about 100 sessions per week. And
Wow.
That was absolutely insane. But in order to kind of do that, I had to be very systematic with how I train my clients. So that's kind of where I learned the importance of having really good systems and processes, right? And having really good technology to allow you to organize your workflow.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of got blown up when I saw an ad from a woman. She was like, I make like $40,000 a month from my online fitness business. And I don't know anything about fitness. And that like rocked me to my core because I was like, how is she making almost as much as I am? And she's on the beach bragging about how she doesn't know anything about this industry. And I'm like, I'm doing something wrong. Like there's something grossly broken with how I'm going about doing this. And that's what started my journey online. And that's what lit a fire in me to figure out like the online game and how do I take the processes that I use in person and translate that online. So I built my first fitness app that allowed me to automate, everything that I would do for my clients in person and sell that as a high ticket program online. And it was awesome. I got my first client and didn't see them for 16 weeks. And then they sent me a picture. They're like, man, I'm 54 years old. And this is the first time I've ever had abs in my life.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, like it works. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like what led me down the rabbit hole of building that. And then people started asking about, how I was going about doing it and how the heck did I have a program that was fully automated and people were getting great results. And so I've been very systematic and always like biased leveraging technology to make it easier for me to deliver what I do.
Yeah, why not? It's there. You may as well use it and multiply your efforts and multiply the results.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
so the work you do is mostly in the personal coaching, or is it like specific to training or?
No, that's where I started. Okay. So once I built my training business, and then lots of coaches were like, "Hey, how did you do it?" Then I transitioned and started building a coaching company to teach other trainers how to do what we're doing and leverage some of the technologies and systems that I built. And then we grew that to a point where that business was doing multi seven figures. And then our coaching business, like our fitness business, grew that one to where we're doing 8 figures. And at one point we had like 40 different setters. Wow. And that's where like we started feeling the pain of having so many people to manage the leads, and there was lots of money. The amount of money that were being missed, and opportunities and revenue being like the opportunity costs are just insane. So
Yeah.
that's where I started building a lead management system that eventually turned into the software platform that we have now, and um, transition out of that and then just focus on Charlie is what we call it, and AI Setter is the brand that we use to deploy it.
Interesting. Now, for clarity, there is a Charlie.ai. Is that the same Charlie or?
Yeah, so the charlieai.io, that's like the product website where if somebody wanted to just go and learn about the technology and what it's capable of, they
Mhm.
would go there and they can request a demo there. And then if they wanted help from our team to go into either their agency or their business to like deploy it, then AI Setter is like the brand that I'm closely associated with as far as like actively deploying it into agencies and things like that to make it really easy for them to use it in their own business, but then also deploy it into their clients' businesses.
So the first half of that, use it for their own business. What are some of the examples that they can use it for?
They can use it to manage their leads. So the way that we built our agency is one of the most challenging thing about having an agency is one, marketing for your own agency,
Hmm.
right? It's very easy because you want to do a great job for your clients to the point where you neglect your own business. All right. So for me, like within the agency is like, how do I use it? Because we're using it for our clients, but it was like, I wonder if there's a way for us to use it for our own business because we're generating leads, but we're missing so many opportunities for ourselves. So I took some time and figured out, okay, how can we plug it into our own business?
Hmm.
And so now we use it in like three steps within our funnel. So that when the lead initially opts in, it's going to like build rapport with them and send them to our application, right? And then when they fill out the application sorts them into two categories, right? Either like they're qualified or they're not quite qualified and they need to be further vetted. And so when they're qualified, if they haven't booked the call, we have Charlie reach out to those leads that are qualified to get them onto the calendar. And then the leads that aren't qualified, Charlie will reach out to them to vet them and find out like maybe it was a mistake, maybe they just kind of filled out the application haphazardly and the information isn't accurate. So it's going to vet them further and then qualify them and then book them onto the calendar. Right. So now
Interesting.
we have it throughout the entire process to where our team, our AEs are only taking calls of engaged and loosely qualified leads
Hmm.
because you never know until you talk to the person, but they're way more qualified and they show up way warmer than they would if they didn't have any interaction whatsoever. Right.
So it's warming them up with the right discovery questions, the right pieces of content, some examples of work, maybe trying to talk about seeding what the agency can do for them without knowing if they're the right person. But on the other side, if the system knows they're not the right person, start to ask those qualifying or disqualifying questions to move them down the funnel or get them out of the way.
Yep. We call it we call it a conversation funnel. All
Hmm.
right. And one of the things that we did is we actually did a split test between sending people to our landing page and sending them to our funnel and having them like book themselves in. Right. When somebody was self-booked, we had about a 50 to 60% show rate. And transitioning to having them go through our conversation funnel, have a conversation with Charlie, build a little rapport, we've averaged about an 85% show rate since deploying it in over a year, right?
Wow.
So it's been like over 14 months of data. And during that time frame, about an 85% show up rate on those calls since Charlie took over, whereas like previously it was about a 50 to 60%, 70% if we're lucky.
Yeah. But that's a
Right.
great bump, whether it's 70 to 85 or 50 to 85. Either way, that's a great bump from,
Yeah.
in any conversion system.
So
Agencies that you see kind of bringing a system like this on board or just, starting to, like you said, doing their own marketing, not happening.
mhm.
What are some of the barriers for entry that you see on the agency side from like bringing any kind of system on board tactically?
The barrier of entry is typically like learning the technology,
Hmm.
because there's so much going on and you only have so much bandwidth, especially if you're an agency owner who's servicing clients. All right. If you're servicing clients, your bandwidth is typically taken up just trying to get your client results and making sure that they're happy. So your own business typically gets neglected.
Yep.
And that's typically the barrier of entry is just like ignorance, right? Not knowing the best way to deploy the new technology and then not really being able to allocate the time into building it out properly and integrating it into your business. So those are like the main challenges that people have. And then there's a lot of fear around utilizing AI. All right.
So talk about that. What do you think that fear is based on, other than taking their jobs, obviously?
Yeah. I think the fear is sound, but it's based out of like just insecurity, you know.
hmm
Our goal is, and we know like humans that know how to use AI will replace the ones that don't, right?
Yeah.
AI, in my opinion, is never going to replace humans, but it's going to allow those that use it to be way more leveraged, right? The input to output ratio with AI versus without it is just the discrepancy is it's just too big of a gap,
Yeah.
right?
Y-
And so that's like the biggest challenge is like you have to use it and you have to learn it. Otherwise, those who do leverage it, they're going to beat you. They're coming for your lunch, whether you want it to happen or not. It's going to happen.
Yeah. And in the sake of this game, if you've got one person without AI or two people without AI, or a sales team without AI going out and putting appointments on the calendars versus a fully automated AI driven system that understands your brand, understands how you speak, what qualifies and disqualifies, the number of appointments put on the calendar, again, to use that as an example, is 10, 20x.
Yeah, because your team, and then even the quality of performance that your team is that you're able to get out of your team, right? Because our sales team, they're not doing any follow ups, they're not doing any outreaches. Anytime somebody no shows, they just mark the person as a no show. Charlie gets activated, and it's hunting them down to get them back on the
Hmm.
calendar. So now the team can just focus on maximizing their on call time, right? So most of their workday is spent talking to people on the phone, which is what they want to do. They don't want to be sending emails and sending text messages and
Mm-hmm.
reaching out and trying to get the leads to engage. So you let the system do that for them. And then they get to spend their time talking to people on the phone, making offers, handling objections, right? And in turn, that allows them to make more money, which is going to allow them to produce more revenue for your company,
Yeah.
right? And so it's been a win-win overall because we're having the AI do the work that we know they're not doing, that they don't want to do, right? And that's what I ran into when we had a massive team of setters. Is there's just so many conversations being missed simply because if a lead didn't respond within the hour, they were already busy engaging the new leads that were responding, right? And we all know the money's in the follow-up, but if they're so busy talking to new conversations and the ones that are in the database get forgotten about, that's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of missed opportunity.
So using AI to do the follow up, follow back, reach back around, and nudge people and check in on them, super important to do. What about in the instance where, sub 10 people, right? Maybe it's
Mhm.
$1 million agency. The owner is still charged with biz dev. It's not a sales team. It's not anybody but the owner. So it's a solo person charged with driving more revenue. Like, how does building a system like this fit in when there's just one person on the hook for it?
Yeah, I mean, it allows them to buy their time back, right? So if they're solo, then they're spending a lot of time. And in my experience, like working with some solo agencies, they're spending like a lot of time in the DMs responding to leads. And a lot of those conversations that they're having in the DMs are typically a waste of their time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they spend all this time responding to conversations, and then now they're having to shift gears and then take some calls and then shift gears and then speak with clients. So a lot of bandwidth gets wasted, and even the conversation that they are having is inefficient, right? Because they can't really focus because they're doing so many things. So bringing something like Charlie into a solopreneur's workflow allows them to just close the door on the DMs and focus on just being present when they're talking to the people either on the phone to
Mm-hmm.
convert leads or when they're talking to their clients, right? They can just be present there. And that's what we see agency owners that are solo that have clients already, the biggest feedback that they give is like, man, like I don't even have to look at my DMs. I can just focus on either creating content to drive leads to feed the machine, or taking the calls that are engaged,
Hmm.
right? Or just focusing on my clients, right?
Yeah.
But then it also makes it easier for them to replace themselves from either client services or the sales process, because now they have time to document how they're doing those things.
Yeah, and that's so vital. Like any agency owner that wants to scale, and again, I'm thinking like the 5 to 10 person agency, the biggest holdback from letting them scale is that owner is holding on to too many jobs. He's wearing too many, he or she's wearing too many hats. And again, they're the sole reason why business comes in. And so if they can build a system slash delegate it out to a robot or, systems of tools, get themselves out of that day to day, they can drive revenue, put appointments on the calendar, get themselves on the golf course or, at the beach or whatever the heck they want to be doing instead of working that extra 20, 30 hours. But,
Exactly.
there's that ceiling for an owner when they've got to really get out of the way, whether it's for scalability or, acquisition or whatever is, on the horizon.
Yeah. And then the DM, I get why like they have a hard time delegating the DMs, because a lot of the people that we'll work with, they typically will delegate those DMs to VAs,
Hmm.
either like really cheap VAs who don't really understand the English that well, and
Yep.
they're not really able to read between the lines and understand like the nuance of the conversations that people are when they're saying certain things, right? And they don't really have the ability to layer down and really lean into someone to get more information that's going to be actionable, right?
Yeah.
Or they're paying too much for a setter who is really good, but they're a diva, right? And then when that setter is really good, they want to start making more money. So they don't want to be a setter anymore. They want to become a closer. And now they have to be in this revolving door of
Yep.
training, hiring, and replacing setters,
Yeah.
right? So having something like Charlie where they can take their thought process, download it into the AI, and know that it's going to be there day and night, executing the things that it's learned from that owner 24/7, 365. They train it once and they don't have to think about it again. And
Mm.
now it's having conversations. A lot of times, like I just had a client yesterday, like, man, this thing is talking to the leads better than I could. Like
That's
it's
scary. Yeah.
it's scary. He showed me a conversation. He was like, man, like that response is so damn good. Like, how did they even do that? You
Yeah.
know? But that's the power of being able to leverage technology like AI, because the way our platform works is once it starts learning from you, then it starts having conversations, then it starts learning in real time from those conversations, and then it activates deep learning
Mm.
where it can start reasoning on its own, right? And based on what the person said and based on the principles that it's learned from you, it can reason and create its own unique responses to meet that lead where they're at,
Yeah.
right? So when they're going through the conversations, they're like, man, this thing is just way more tentative than I would have been. you know?
What's that original like ramp up learn time for a system like this to like learn how I speak and learn questions I want to ask and things like that?
Yeah, so our team have done a really good job kind of streamlining that. So it takes about a week for our team to be able to like deploy it,
Hmm.
right? And then it'd be like the same way that you would train a new employee, like 30 to 60 days is gonna be like that ramp time. But we often see it producing really good results within 24 hours of it going live,
Wow.
right? Because what we're doing is we're extracting like the principles from you, right? Why would you ask a question the way that you would? What's the purpose behind this question, right? And it forces you to think about the intent of your scripting and your sales process. And then when you can distill that intent down and we can translate it to the AI, then the AI understands, okay, this is the ultimate goal. This is what I'm trying to get out of the person when I ask this question. And if they don't give me the information that I need, it knows how to layer down and reframe and dig a little bit deeper to get that to meet that objective,
Hmm.
right? So that takes about a week for us to kind of build out, and then probably another week to really flesh out the objective and the intent of the sales process. And then beyond that, they're just going in every day, take them 10 minutes at the end of the day, just review conversation that it has, give our team feedback on what they need to change. And then that's it. Right. And then they'll know when it starts learning on its own, because they'll go in there, start looking at the conversation and be like, damn, this is this is really good.
Yeah.
Right. And then around that 60-day mark, they're not even thinking about it anymore. They don't even check the conversations, because once it's trained, it's trained. It's not like it's going to have a bad day and decide to stop working, or decide it wants to go on vacation, or somebody broke up with it and now it's emotionally derailed. You know what I mean?
The idea that these language models can understand intent and leverage that in how it operates, to me, is like that's the defining line between these things becoming sentient and not. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's just scary when it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is why we ask this question, and this is the next question in line, because this is what we want to get the results from. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah. And that process specifically is really unique to us, because I ran a sales team, right? So a lot of there's some good platforms out there, but they're really just like chatbots regurgitating information that you give it.
Right.
Where like our focus is like training it to understand intent,
Mm-hmm.
so that it can reason on its own. And then once it's able to reason on its own, it's much harder to do, right? It's way easier to give it a script, right? And just say, hey, these are the questions, and just no matter what the person says, this is like what the next question is, versus taking the time to be really intentional and thinking through what are the intent of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
But the quality of it, it's not even close. You can't even compare it.
Yeah. No,
Right.
it's a whole other level, it sounds like. So, yeah. Real quick, so that's a lot on how an agency can use it for themselves. What are some examples on how an agency can bring tools like this on board to sell into their clients or to help their clients get better results?
Yeah. With the clients, I mean, every agency owner knows this. First thing clients are going to blame is the lead quality. If you're generating them leads,
Yeah.
right? And then when you start asking questions, you realize, oh, like, when's the last time you talked to this lead? Oh, it's been a few days. They didn't book on a call. So, okay, so you just expect every lead to come in to just book in on their own.
Mm-hmm.
That's the real expectation for a lot of these clients.
Absolutely.
The value add for it is, especially with the agency owner, and if they're niched, right, we can build out, and we'll build this out with them to build a client-facing AI setter that they can deploy into their client's business, build out the intent with them. And then as it's having conversations on one account, when they bring on another account to deploy it, that other account is already fully trained on the process. Right. And so each client that they deploy it to is coming out the gate already fully operational without needing any training at all. Right. So they do it once, and then now when they're generating leads for their clients, they know that their clients are going to get results and get the booking, because they can say, hey, we're going to generate the leads for you. And then we're going to install an AI appointment setter that's fully trained on our process, fully trained on the intent with the sales process. It's already, deep learning is already activated. So we're going to plug it in. It's going to work all your leads for you. And then all you have to do is just show up to take the appointments that is booking, and make sure you close them and deliver them results.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. So the same as what it would do for their agency, but implementing it to get better results for their clients. Because like you said, when sales and marketing aren't communicating, and the sales like, we're not following up on this lead, and marketing is like, we drove the lead, it's in your HubSpot or in your funnel.
Yep.
It's going to pull them through to that next level, so the sales team isn't disconnected as much.
Yeah, it allows them to really connect sales and marketing. And that's one of our things, like bridging the gap between sales and marketing. So now, even with the sales team, they can set it up to where if somebody no shows, all they have to do is mark them as a no show, and then they have AI set of re-engaging the lead. So now the client, it's a massive value add, because the client wasn't doing that stuff anyways, and their sales team probably wasn't doing it.
Right.
And now the agency can guarantee those things are being done and get the client the best results possible.
Yeah. Could systems like this work on the B2C side or the D2C side, where they're driving customers to transactions on a website or conversions, in an app or things like that?
Yeah. I wasn't sure at first, but we started to have a few accounts early on that were doing just that, and they were doing it very successfully. right? So instead of driving somebody to a call, they would drive somebody to a checkout. And then when the person initiate the checkout but didn't complete it in the abandoned cart,
Yeah.
Charlie would reach out and then try and handle the objections, handle the questions, but then offer them a 10% discount to get them to complete the checkout.
Yeah.
Right. And
So
we're
it covers
starting
all
to see,
bases. That's pretty powerful.
yeah, so we're starting to see some success there, but we don't have a ton of people doing that. But the ones that are doing it have been very, very successful. Right.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I know a lot of the e-commerce tools are integrating things like that now, where abandoned cart flow will re-engage with them with social ads or direct messages, things like that with coupons. But
Yeah.
I don't know if it's actual AI or if it's just man built automation. But either way, like that engagement using AI to understand their intent and try and re-engage them is pretty powerful.
Yeah. Those are like mainly automations. And even if you're not doing anything, having some type of automation is better than nothing. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that right now. Right. And then what takes it to another level is when you include intelligence to where it can personalize not just those initial outreach, but it can personalize the follow up. And then if somebody goes inactive, the way that we have it set up is based on the information that's gathered on the prospect, it will start re-engaging them using some of those information to try and get them back. Right. So if they stop engaging after they share their challenges, like, hey, so you just want to check in, like you said that you were struggling with this. Is that like, have you found a solution on that? Like, where are you at with that? Right. Now it's like able to do that personalization at scale with every single lead that it's having an engagement with.
Man, that is game-changing, powerful. That's amazing stuff that you guys are building and implementing. The results you're getting for your clients are pretty substantial. So, very cool, man. Hey, I want to switch gears real quick, throw a couple random rapid-fire questions at you.
Yeah.
The answers to which can be personal, professional, digital, analog. So the first is, what's something that you just can't get enough of these days, whether it's like a show, a podcast, a book, a hobby, or whatever?
A show that I've been really enjoying is Your Honor on
So
Netflix.
good. Mm-hmm.
It's such a good, and the reason why I like it is because of it's a great visual of how one decision just leads to just so many unintended consequences, and the consequences just start getting worse and worse, and just like holy shit, they should have just turned themselves in
Yeah.
at the very beginning, because his worst fears end up coming true anyways, and then it just gets even worse.
Yeah, Bryan Cranston is gold in anything, but in that he's great. His son is awesome in that, and you see this like ripple out effect of one decision, and it's like kids need to watch a show like that or before they start driving or things like that. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. What's a tool that you recently? Well, let me preface this: you can't say AI. What's a tool that you've recently integrated into your life that you look back and you say, "How did I live without this thing?"
And it can't be AI.
No, that's too obvious, man.
That's gonna be that one is tough. And it has to be like, how recent are we talking?
Whenever.
I mean, a tool that I can't live without is my Remarkable, right? That's not AI. So I was a prolific note taker and had a bunch of notebooks all over the place. And since transitioning to the Remarkable, I've not bought a notebook in like 3 years.
Wow.
Right? Everything is there. Anytime I'm writing notes, it all gets organized there. And it's easy for me to share and have this massive archive of information that I'm gathering and things that I'm learning and principles and frameworks that I'm building out.
Nice. Yeah, it's a powerful tool. I know a lot of people that use it and swear by it. So that's awesome. And then finally, just an invaluable piece of business advice that you can share. That's something that's game changing for you.
Business advice. I mean, for me, the most important thing that I've learned in business is really understanding who you're solving the problem for and building out everything with that person in mind, right? And not getting like shiny object syndrome. I call it score syndrome, but it's like really focusing on and doing the boring work that's not sexy, that is not has no sex appeal, but it's like the thing that gets the results. Right. And enjoying the process of doing the boring work day in and day out.
Yeah, keep grinding. I love that, man. Hey, Iggy, thank you so much for your experience, sharing time with us today, and talking about Charlie and everything you guys are doing.
Appreciate you having me on, man. It's been a joy.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thanks again for tuning in to Agency Bytes. If you know someone with expert knowledge on a topic that agency owners would love to hear about, go to agencyoutsight.com/podcast-guest and nominate them.